Once upon a time, in the small town of Kanchangarh, there lived two traveling salesmen who sold utensils and jewelry. They had divided the town between themselves and agreed that if one of them had already visited a particular street, the other could go there later to sell his goods. One day, the first salesman was wandering through a narrow alley when a little girl ran up to her grandmother and exclaimed, "Grandma, I want a bangle!" The grandmother sighed and said, "My dear, we are too poor to afford a bangle." The girl smiled and said, "But we have that old black plate. Can we trade it for a bangle?" Seeing the hope in her granddaughter's eyes, the grandmother agreed and called the salesman inside. The salesman looked around the house, a broken cot, stained walls, and an old, dirty black plate lying in the corner. He thought to himself, "These people are so poor. This is a waste of my time." When the grandmother said, "Son, will you give us a bangle in exchange for this plate?" The salesman picked up the plate and rubbed its surface with his finger. As the soot cleared, he was astonished. "Oh my, this is a golden plate." However, he hid his surprise and said dismissively, "This plate is worthless. I can't even give you a single bangle for it." With that, he left, thinking he would return later to buy it for an even cheaper price. Later that same day, the second salesman finished his rounds and entered the same alley. The little girl saw him and told her grandmother, "Grandma, let's ask this salesman too." The grandmother noticed that this salesman had a warm, honest smile instead of a stern expression like the first one. She invited him inside and showed him the same plate, asking, "Can you give us a bangle in exchange for this plate?" The salesman carefully examined the plate and rubbed away the soot. When the golden shine appeared, he too was stunned, but instead of hiding the truth, he smiled and said, "Grandma, this is a golden plate. All my goods and money together cannot match its value." The grandmother was amazed, but felt reassured by his honesty. She said, "Son, give us whatever you can." The salesman said, "I will give you all my utensils, jewelry, and money. I just need 8 coins and my weighing scale so I can take care of this plate." The grandmother agreed. The salesman handed over all his belongings, took the golden plate, and went to the riverbank. He paid the boatman 8 coins and asked him to row him across the river. Meanwhile, the first salesman, dreaming of the profit he would make, returned to the house. He told the girl and her grandmother, "I've changed my mind. I'll give you some money for your plate now." The grandmother smiled and said, "You lied to us. We've already given the plate to an honest salesman." The greedy salesman was shocked. "Where did he go?" he asked in a panic. The grandmother pointed toward the river. Leaving all his belongings behind, the greedy salesman ran to the river, shouting, "He cheated me!" When he reached the riverbank, he saw the honest salesman seated in the boat. "Bring the boat back!" he shouted to the boatman. The honest salesman called out calmly, "Keep rowing!" The boat slowly drifted further and further away from the shore. The greedy salesman was overcome with rage. He clutched his head and shouted in despair, realizing that his greed had cost him everything. Meanwhile, the honest salesman sailed away with the golden plate, his heart content with his honesty and his simple reward.